All right. All right, let's do this. Okay. Yeah. Freaking neck hurts. Okay, go ahead and hit record. Okay. Welcome to Thought Experiment. I'm your host, Gregory Myhre. Since the cat's out of the bag, thanks to these shitbirds. I can probably edit that out, won't you? All right. The topic for today's thought experiment is Bigfoot. Why Bigfoot? Because like UFOs, Bigfoot is probably the most ubiquitous, like cryptic kind of mysterious thing on the frickin' planet. One of the things about the Bigfoot mystique is that unlike aliens, there's very little theories. There are very few theories about what Bigfoot is. I mean, it's usually just like, hey dude, do you believe in Bigfoot? Yeah, that could be true. Or like, Bigfoot? Are you crazy? Like, that's it. It's one or the other. There's no like proof. We don't know the myriad of information that we do, like we do with UFOs. So let's delve into this. All right. So I think, like usual, I will start with the three main theories on Bigfoot. And no, I'm not even going to entertain, it didn't even make my list, the whole it's one creature. Like it's one magical Santa Claus-like creature that travels around the world and appears places. No, there's a whole bunch of them. It's a species. There's probably like, different sizes and, kinds, colors, like whatever. So the three main theories are: one, it doesn't exist, boring. So two is actually a really, really well-known theory. It's probably the most popular theory there is. It's getting really popular now with scientists, is the undiscovered ape theory. And all that is in a nutshell is that it's an ape we haven't discovered yet. Not hard to believe. I mean, we're discovering new shit all the time. There's a crab that only lives on one island, the coconut crab. Horrifying. Look it up. Horrifying. In Alaska alone, there are 900,000 square miles that have never been seen by humans. In America alone, there is 500,000 miles of land, 500,000, mostly in the Northwest, that are not inhabited by human beings, ever. 500,000. In Russia, they have an area the size of the country of India that nobody has ever been in. So I don't understand how people could say to themselves in good faith, oh, there's just no way we wouldn't run into them. That's insane. And then the third option is that they are some kind of like supernatural being that maybe is connected with extraterrestrials or other dimensions. So, what do we know? What we know is that we have an enormous amount of sightings. And one of the things that I want to say about sightings is obviously there's a million things out there on the internet, on the interwebs and whatnot. What I do is I kind of run those things through like a checklist for me of whether or not it seems credible. So like, I'm not going to go into it in depth, but I mean, like, if they would like stand to make money off of it, or if they eventually did make money off of it, like any of those things. What was their job? Do they have a record? Like all of those things. So from now on, and in future videos, if I reference something that I think is credible, I've run it through that kind of process. That actually leads me to a couple of stories that I did want to mention here. One being, there was a family I deem credible that claimed that for many years they lived out in the woods and they lived with a family of Bigfoot. There was a mother and a father and 2 children, and they lived out in the woods, and they would always come up to the edge of the woods and hang out, and they would like kind of try to play with the children from afar, and they just started having this kind of relationship. They would start leaving gifts for each other. Like the humans would leave them food, and like they would come back and leave them, you know, probably like a mutilated squirrel or some shit. And actually what's funny about that one is at one point, the father kind of disappeared, and then another father came in, like Step-Squatch. And like that one was totally mean, as stepfathers are. All right, anyways, we could link it below or something. And then the final story I want to tell you real quick is there were gold prospectors that were out in the woods, and they had been doing this for like 6 years. So they built this tiny little cabin, right? It's like a 5x5 cabin, seriously, like maybe 6x8 or something. No windows, just, you know, wood log cabin. And 5 of them would sleep in there at night. And they were prospecting for gold, and one time they saw this Bigfoot track, and then they started hearing this whistling and this howling. And so they just kind of thought to themselves, like, you know, we don't know what's going on, but let's just go back. They went back, and they were like, we should probably just stay in here, but, you know, we're hungry, so they want to go get some water. So 2 of them went down towards the water, and they brought their rifles with them because they were freaked out. And as they get down towards the water, it's nighttime, and the moonlight is shining just on one spot that's kind of up this like rock face, right? And there's trees on top of it. And the moon is shining there, so that, you know, their attention is drawn to it. And there's a frickin' Bigfoot behind a tree looking out and watching them. And the dude with the rifle takes the rifle up just to, you know, get a closer look. And he sees it. He could see steam coming off of its face, and like, I mean, it wasn't a frickin' suit or whatever. And the Bigfoot ducks back behind, and he's so freaked out and scared, he takes 3 shots just in the air wildly, just to hopefully scare it off. Well, it doesn't scare it off. It whistles. Like back behind it, it whistles. And then all of a sudden, he starts to hear more whistles from behind him. More and more whistles. And he's whistling back to them. And then all of a sudden, he charges down the hill. And because the moonlight was only like this, he charges down the hill out of their sight. But right as he's leaving the moonlight, he's over his back whistling. And they hear all these whistles, and they start to hear all this, like, all these things coming down, right? So they run back to this little cabin they have, and they all pile in there. They push everything they can up against the door, and they push up against the door. And all of a sudden, something hits the door, and something's trying to get into the door, and it's banging, banging, banging on the door, and they hold it off long enough, and then it settles down. And they wait like an hour, hour and a half, and they're like, okay, everything should be fine. But then they hear another bang, and it seemed different, and it wasn't on the door. And it hit so hard that like one little sliver of one of the logs broke off, so you could kind of see outside. And so they all go up, and they're looking out there, and they see 3 Bigfoot talking to each other in a language they don't understand, holding giant rocks, like what would be considered boulders to us. And one of them had just thrown it at the cabin. Now, because they were seeing them, one of them actually noticed and threw another rock at him. And obviously, I mean, they didn't get hit or anything, but they were terrified. They fall back, you know, they just want to, and for the rest of the night, they just get pelted with boulders all night long. Just boom, boom, just praying that this frickin' cabin will hold up. It does. In the morning they come out, and it's basically like a graveyard of boulders. So they get the hell out of there, and they never come back, obviously. We do have media, and I would say even as far back as the original like holy grail of Bigfoot videos, is the Patterson film, you know, the what is it? That, Yeah, that was the like the most famous one. They could not have faked that. And what they now, and people don't know this, but they actually have studied that video ad nauseum. At one point they asked Jim Henson, they were like, could you do this? And he was like, absolutely not. He got a gymnast, he put him in the suit, there's all the technology, they could not recreate it. The other part is there's a lot of audio recordings, because obviously that's so much easier to get than actually seeing one. But the audio recordings are fascinating. Like, I'm sure we could probably like play one. So here we go. Favorite. It's pretty obvious that we don't know what's making that sound. There's also some physical evidence. I mean, obviously there's footprints. I don't think all of those are hoaxed. You know, there's been hair that's been retrieved that they can identify, which is oftentimes one of the first steps to identifying a new species, is finding traces of them. So that's already happening. What's probably more interesting is what we don't know. Why don't we have any scat or remains? And by scat, I don't mean like boo. I mean poop.
Hi, dudes.
So my thing with this is, what if they're somewhat like us and they just don't take a crap on the sidewalk? I mean, bury it. You know what I'm saying? So easy, that one's easy. Why don't we have remains? I don't know. Maybe they bury their dead. Maybe they eat them. There are human civilizations that do that. I mean, it's not that far of a leap. Let me paint a picture for you. Would you get a clear picture if you're in the woods and a fucking Bigfoot jumps out of the bushes? I mean, I've seen so many videos where you get like the slightest glimpse and then they're just running as fast as they can. Real life. Real. You would not, oh my God, I gotta get this. What are you, a journalist? Like, no, nobody's doing that. They're experiencing it for themselves while they backpedal. Like, nobody's getting a clear photo. To my theory, which is short, I promise, because I've already covered all that. Let's get Theorious. Here it is. I'm starting with the undiscovered ape theory, but I'm layering on there that Bigfoot probably branched off from us a lot later in our evolutionary tree than we think, and so it's way more intelligent than we think. That's my theory. I mean, and I think that explains everything we just talked about. If you go back and watch this again, think about it, everything is explained by an intelligence that we haven't given to it yet, that we haven't admitted it has yet. I mean, it's investigating. It's protecting its territory. It knows that it probably doesn't want to interact with us, but it's curious. I mean, all of these stories tell the same story. I mean, I think they're all different. And I even think there are some, like the ones with the gold prospectors, who just thought, like, we got to get rid of these guys. They've seen us. So I do think they're that intelligent. And, you know, the final thought is, I mean, we literally have just dumb, stinky people out there just waiting to get discovered. So, I mean, use your brain on that. Cut. All right. Do you think they knew I had makeup on? Because that would be super embarrassing. I gotta pee.
I believe he said he had to go pee.